Okay, so today is January 13, 2022. This is distribution team demo, and the subject today is the listing operator on Operator Hub IO. So there are quite a few things that are going on with this, and I wanted to kind of split it into two pieces. One is talk about the lay of the land, so to speak, just where we at, how things are and everything else, and then what are the issues that are related to that. So to begin with, let me start sharing my screen because this is going to be much easier to talk about things. There we go, share. Okay. So here's the ticket. So up until now, our OLM experience was maybe not exactly great, but it was okay because we were bundling, we could install everything. But since our latest upgrade, things went sideways. So what does it mean that things are working okay right now? So we have a script, the OLM bundle, that actually does everything that we need to. And I just built a small kind of toolkit for myself for testing. So this is, we can either save it as a snippet or immortalize it some other way, or if we don't want to immortalize it, doesn't matter. But what it does, it's a wrapper creating the kind cluster, deploying some cert manager in there, and I specifically broke out every step so we can see what this thing is doing. So the OLM bundle is doing several things. So it's doing the build manifest, then generates the bundle, then patches the bundle, meaning some of the activities need to be done after the bundle has been auto-generated by Operator SDK. So patch bundle are those steps that are happening afterwards. So if we go to the script itself, you can see that, for example, we substituting the manager's image name to operator image operator tag, so we can override those on the fly. And the other thing that I've added as part of trying to resolve issues right now is injecting the Ingress class into the bundle. But this actually introduces its own issues. So what we're going to do, we're going to just take that one out for now. So that's the patch bundle. And then what we do afterwards is validating bundle, compile, and publish bundle. That needs to go into some container registry of some sort that we're referencing here, not here. It's actually a default reference in here. I'm dumping it into my own registry, if I can find it right there. Could be overwritten, but my token is set to dump things in there. So that's what we're doing. And after that, it installs the OLM into the cluster, into the kind cluster. Then it compiles and publishes the catalog. It creates the namespace, and the catalog is being pushed into the container registry as well. That's another container. And then create namespace and deploy catalog source into that namespace. And unfortunately, after that, there is the manual step of waiting for package manifest to initialize. Only after that can we deploy the subscription, which will instantiate the operator. And then we have to wait again, because until the operator is there, we cannot just dump the GitLab resource into the cluster. So once we get the operator, that's the last step. We just deploy the GitLab in there. So this is what this script does. So what we can do right now is just run it. Let me just make sure that we don't have kind get clusters. No clusters. Good. All right. So this script is like seriously maybe somewhat over-engineered piece, but it kind of hides all the ugliness that's happening under the hood. So we'll just do, because I was doing several iterations over it already, and the iteration number impacts the tag that I'm using for publishing the catalog, the bundle, the name of the cluster, and everything. So I just extracted it out. So I'm using the GitLab chart version 561. I'm using the operator tag, the one where we fixed that exporter issue that Mitch has nipped. I think we could try to use latest right now, right, Mitch? I think that was merged.
I believe that was merged, yeah.
Okay, so we can just do the latest for the sake of this. And actually, the operator SDK, we can use either 115 or 113 that I've been using until now. There is no difference between the two, quite honestly. So once we launch that, what it's going to do is going to spin up the cluster, populate it, and you will see what's going to happen next. So what we're going to do is kind of go with the current implementation. And that implementation worked, by the way. Up until now, it was working just fine. So there's one extra step that we'll have to do before deploying the GitLab. We'll need to, like using the operator, we'll need to instantiate the Ingress class. And then everything works. So you can see that right now it just pushed the bundle. And it's now installing the OLM into the cluster. So while it's doing this, I wanted to kind of touch a little bit on what's inside the bundle, because that's probably an important thing altogether. So there's the CSV, the cluster service version manifest, and that thing is a really, really long one, and it includes the core of everything that we really, really need. There is, if we get the outline and just do it like this, so inside the spec, there's the install section that actually describes on how to install the operator, because everything else is pretty much a metadata. So this describes how to install the operator into the cluster. So it describes the permissions. And then, so there is cluster permissions, deployments, and permissions. So permissions are namespace wide, cluster permissions, obviously, on a cluster level, and deployment. That's what we're doing right now. So that's how operator is really being deployed. It takes this, and it takes a few extra manifests in that cover services and service accounts. And that's about it. Like cluster role. Oh, and custom resource definition. Sorry, that one shouldn't have missed that one. So that's what bundle includes right now. And how it does it, we feed the operator SDK the full manifest that we currently give our users, say, do kubectl apply, and there's that operator YAML. That's the manifest that we give to the user. And that one includes everything, including the Ingress class right there. So one operator SDK processes that, it decides to strip the Ingress class from the output, period. So that's what's happening right now. So that's why I had this patch that I shown earlier, this guy, just blatantly copying the Ingress class into the directory and modifying the metadata name so it fits with the rest of things. But that's about it. But there is nothing else to it, not really.
So to clarify, you hand it that singular manifest and it generates everything in the bundle directory? Like you didn't make that CSV by hand, right?
Nope. Nope.
Okay, good.
Oh, okay. Yes and no. Very, very good question, though, because I'll show where it's coming from. It's coming from here. So we have the config manifest basis, and this is the CSV, the default CSV we start with. So it takes all the metadata from this CSV, and then it generates whatever it generates on top, overriding some of the values here. So for example, this one, you will notice somewhere at the top, it says the operator SDK version. Yeah, like for example, it says operator SDK v1.1.0. But if you actually go into the CSV here, and if you scroll up, that's there. It says something different. So that's kind of a gist of how it operates. It grabs whatever the defaults are and overrides it with whatever data it received on the input.
But for example, we don't have to specify the deployment in two separate places and remember to update them
Nope.
separately. Okay.
No, it just extracts. So that was the magic that we used initially, is that we already have manifest, we know it works, so we just let the operator SDK extract whatever it needs to create the bundle.
So the SDK doesn't know how to work with Ingress classes, but Operator Hub
precisely
OLM does, effectively?
No.
Neither of them knows what to do with Ingress classes. Okay.
I don't think so, and that's where we get into.
I would honestly be more surprised if OLM knew and the SDK did not. So at least it's consistent.
So
Dimitri, are you going to build an operator for that then?
Sorry?
I said, are you going to build an operator to define that? An operator for our operator to operate?
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
All right, I'll make it an epic.
Yep. It is going to be epic.
Isn't that the definition of job security?
Yeah, just keep making operators.
Yep. So now that this whole thing is complete, so we can actually take a look at package manifest. Yeah, it's right there. It's been instantiated. So now we can proceed with the next step from our auto deploy script. And the next step is just deploy subscription, which means that, so let me show what's happening in the cluster. So you can see all the pods now, and some stuff running in OLM namespace, some in Q. That's pretty much bare bones system. So now we're going to do the step 2, and that is when the subscription is going to be deployed. And you will notice that it just created new job. Once that is done, it will start up. There we go. So GitLab system, it spun up the operator the way we wanted it to. So if we look at the subscriptions, there is our subscription that we just deployed, and install plan. That was the install plan that was followed to kind of get that subscription in place.
So you subscribe to a service at a certain version, right? Or you can subscribe and tell it to automatically update. I think I remember that from other days.
Let's refresh my memory as well, because I don't remember anymore. Subscription. Yeah, we just say which CSV we subscribe to. But it says starting CSV, so I'm guessing it will kind of take in the future updates gracefully.
So it sounds like the OLM would recognize that a new version is released, and you could presumably click a button in the OLM UI to update that field.
That would be my hope. I didn't test that. So that's a very good point, and we need to kind of work in detail on that one as well.
Yeah, that's probably down the road, I know, because we'll have to consider I would be curious to see what OLM lets you update to. Like if someone forgets to click that upgrade button for a while and they come back a year later, would it let you go straight to the newest version, or would it make you go stepwise, at least for the minor versions, which is what we usually require?
Yeah, we'll have to tinker with that. So for the moment, we'll wrap the scope back to the issue at hand, and that is not dismissing what you just said because it's important. So we already done the subscription, so all we have to do right now is just deploy the GitLab. So that's what I'm going to do. Boom. So it actually spits out the manifest that was applied. So the GitLab resource has been deployed. And if we go into the space, we can take a look at the logs, and sure enough, things are happening.
And so I guess
configuration error detected. No, actually things are not happening because the Ingress class is not there. And chart version is not there. So I'll have to adjust.
Yeah, because I guess before even applying the GitLab CR, we should have seen an Ingress class, because OLM should have taken care of that.
I got a little bit rushed. I'm sorry.
So you can successfully patch in the Ingress class, but OLM just seems to ignore it.
So let's just delete this GitLab deployment now. This is fine. So now we'll do the step 3, and we'll just use a different chart version to begin with. But we're not going to do it because the Ingress class is missing too. So, or we can do it without the Ingress class just to show what's going to happen. So let's do this. Yep.
Is there any indication, like in the OLM pod logs, of it skipping the Ingress class because it doesn't know what it is or something? Because obviously the Ingress class is up there in the manifest, right, in the CSV, but
barfs mercilessly. I actually posted the output in the ticket right there. Those are the errors from the OLM.
So one of the pods in the OLM namespace, basically.
Yeah, it's let me see, that was the OLM operator, that guy.
OLM operator. Okay.
So right now, right now we do not generate the Ingress class as part of the bundle. So right now what's going to happen is it's going to spin up the entire GitLab system just the way it's supposed to, except that we're not going to be able to access it. So if we take a look at the Ingress classes, nothing is here. But if we look at the ingresses, they already referencing the GitLab Nginx class, which does not exist.
So specifically, the OLM operator and the operator SDK need to be updated to know what to do with Ingress classes, and that's what the issue you opened was for, right? That was my takeaway from talking to our colleagues at Red Hat. After kind of going through all the notions and experimenting a little bit here and there, we kind of get to that conclusion. So while this is doing that, and since we do know a little bit about the background here, there's one thing that could be done. Okay, so one thing that has been mentioned, and Mitch, you mentioned in the ticket that you agree with that approach for now, and that was this: create the upstream issue and instruct users to create the Ingress class manually. So this manual instruction can actually be embedded into our OLM bundle. And that's what I was going to kind of take a look at. And if that is the way we want to go, we should probably, so here's the documentation and the prerequisites. So we could be listing it right here with detailed instructions on what needs to be done. This is what appears in the UI, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
So there is one more thing that I wanted to, no container. Let's take a look. Test CSV preview. That's the one. So if we just copy paste the CSV, let's do it the ugly way. It'll actually show us what it's going to look like. In preview operator. So this is what it should look like in UI. So if we just add into the prerequisite section an additional blurb about getting the Ingress class, that would at least notify users in some shape or form that what needs to be done. It's not going to help them. At least it's going to notify them. And that was one of the solutions proposed. All right. Okay. So we almost done, but the migrations are still running. So I'm guessing the web service is going to spin up in a minute. And once that is done, then we can, yeah, right there. So ingresses all there, but the ingress class notably absent. So
yeah, the two upsides, at least from our perspective, are A, you already have to apply a manifest manually, the GitLab CR. So asking for one more 10-line manifest to apply isn't too bad. And
yeah.
B, you don't technically have to use Nginx, like our Nginx, you know. It's mostly if you want support for Git over SSH, which obviously is a very common feature request, but not technically a hard prerequisite. So obviously we want to push to get this working, but I guess not necessarily hard blockers at the moment, only because Nginx is technically an optional.
Let me see which one contained
bundled Nginx, I should say.
Nginx stuff. There you go, in 48. So the 48 bundle manifests GitLab Nginx, just to be a little bit more visual. So this is what we're gonna apply now. So, okay. Before we apply that, let's just confirm that things are not working. Not that anybody has any doubts about this, but just in case. So we'll do the ingresses. We're gonna grab this guy. And yeah. And we got the 404. So what we're gonna do now is just apply the Ingress class. Just created that. And let's try it again. Come on. Do I need to respin the ingresses?
That might take a few seconds for the controller to recognize the new Ingress class and attach the ingresses. I also have noticed sometimes I have to bounce the Nginx pods for them to pick up configuration, but we can give it a sec. You can look at the logs from Nginx if you want.
Nginx controller. Oh, nothing there. Oh, yeah, because I'm being silly.
It's another problem with K9S. Sometimes it doesn't print it out. Oh, there you go. It says reloaded. What does that say? So it claims to have reloaded, but if you go back to ingresses and they're not attached, then you might just have to delete that pod. Yeah.
Okay.
It's weird. Maybe they're fixing that in newer versions.
So let's just kick the pod.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we need to kick that one, or do we need to kick that one too?
I don't think so. No, it's just the default backend.
That's what I was thinking. Okay. Ta-da.
Yeah,
So-
I've been meaning to look at the GitHub project to see if they're aware of that one.
So that's pretty much where it leaves us with this situation. So unfortunately, we don't have too many people to make any decisions here, but one way of doing it, like I said, we can just copy paste this. Into the default CSV, and under the prerequisites, drop in Ingress class. GUI. Come on, don't do that to me. Okay. There we go. So that would do this. And now if we just copy paste that, let's do copy path.
I don't think we do it today. We don't allow anybody to override the Ingress class from the operator standpoint, right?
Sorry, I kind of missed that.
I got people hitting me, sorry. From the operator side, we don't allow the Ingress class to be overwritten. So we could use, you just did a static copy, but if we allow people to override the Ingress class, that won't work.
Yes, but in OLM world, things are very fixed in a lot of ways.
Okay,
It's very opinionated, at least at the moment. We only have one deployment into one particular namespace, GitLab system. So
right,
all the prefixes and everything else are fixed as well.
true.
So the reality is that, yeah, nothing. So this is what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
I probably should.
Yeah, I think as long as we don't allow overrides, I don't see a problem with that. And you're probably right. I haven't dealt as much with the OLM stuff, so I'm not as familiar with that. But okay.
Yeah, I mean, since the user has to apply that themselves, they could change that spec.controller value and just make sure that they pass that as a value in their GitLab CR to Nginx when it spins up. But yeah, you're right. A lot of things are fixed, given that OLM is installing with certain prefixes, etc.
Okay, so shall we leave it as like that for now within that MR and just kind of say we'll go with that until something better comes along?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's the best.
So this is pretty much like we're practically out of time too, and perfectly so. We just got everything in line. So any comments, questions, or anything else that we should add to this before I stop the recording?
Just curious if you've gotten any responses yet on that issue.
Oh, let's take a look. I actually didn't check today. Not so much, no.
Okay. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it, but I think this is the best path forward for now.
Yeah, and actually of note, I did provide the full blown, like if anybody wants to tinker with operator bundles and stuff like that, this actually the CLI version of what those scripts are doing, very condensed. So minimal amount of tooling is required to kind of run it locally if you want to tinker with that.
Cool.
Otherwise, our scripting is better because I wrote it. All right, I'll stop the share and I'll stop the recording.